nice to have Ryan Harklau back on, and we have a lot to talk
making this
about.
an annual thing.
Yep, we got a lot
That's
to
a good
talk
thing.
about.
Yeah.
Yep. So you've been on the practices, and we've been as fans. Obviously, we've heard about the team, other than the gambling stuff, has been just kind of murmurs. So you've got all the info, and so. What has the summer been like for the team? Like this, I feel like the team and the fans, I feel like there's been kind of like separation there with for the excitement for the upcoming season. Like now that the gambling stuff's washed away, I feel like how the team react to it, you think?
So they reacted in April and May. The team acted earlier. They've known for a long time. I think that, a lot of the players you're seeing in the news now is old news to them. And being around the team, being on campus, this isn't new to them. Honestly, it doesn't come up. You don't see it in practice. You don't see it impacting anything of their day. It's not like, side conversation. This happened to them in April and May, and this is Coach Campbell thinking ahead and being what he is as a leader. They've moved on, from that problem. They knew it was a problem. It is a problem. It's an unfortunate circumstance, obviously, and those guys made a mistake. I will tell you, as men, they're good men. I know them personally. I've met them all. I've been around them, hung out with them. Jairo Brock this week announces he's no longer at the program, and he made a bad mistake. But as a person, if he was sitting here today, you'd want to put your arm around him and hug him and say it's going to be okay. He's a 21-year-old kid trying to find his way in life, and he's as good a person as there is. Coach Campbell's been there for those guys as well through this adversity. But I'm telling you, all of them made mistakes. But all of them are good people. They just made a terrible mistake on something. You can't make that mistake on what we do and how big this game is now.
Yeah, and how the spotlight is on you. And, yeah, it's too bad. I mean, I kind of said, I don't know the kids, obviously, personally, but I kind of have said that on this show that, they are kids. We got to remember that. I mean, thank God there was no social media when I was 21. I mean, because I probably would – I don't know what would have happened, but
we'd be talking about you,
right? Yeah, but the whole gambling thing, the fact that it's 18 in Iowa, I thought was one factor because I've got an 18-year-old and he's driving to Minnesota to go gambling, and I didn't know until you just told us now that the team had known that long, so that makes a lot of sense now that it seems like the team has moved on, just from the outside looking in. Even watching the press conferences with Coach, that it seems like they've kind of put it in the rearview mirror. But it's been kind of a slow trickle of information for everybody, and so I think the fans are just getting their minds wrapped around it. But you and I have talked, off air about these guys before, and I've never heard you say a negative word about them. And when you're talking about a $10 bet or a $5 bet or whatever. That's not a reason to condemn them for any reason. I mean, because, God, they could have done a million things worse, but they're not that kind of people. So
yeah, they're not. And you can't have those $7 bets or $10 bets.
Right.
You can't. You got to protect the integrity of the game. So I'm okay with the punishment, honestly. I don't like, how Iowa's being spotlighted. I'm not a fan of that. I don't like that Iowa State and Iowa are the two schools spotlighted. Here I am defending Iowa, but there's two schools in the nation being spotlighted here.
Right.
And I think that's not just, and I don't think I think there's a bigger problem than just two universities in the entire nation that this may exist on. At the same time, we have to protect the integrity of the game. And I would fully support the action taken against these players. And so while they're amazing young men, they're amazing people, we have to continue to stand against this, and we can't have this in the game. As soon as you get into the game, it's you can't turn around. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
But again, I don't necessarily love how this has been addressed in two state schools in one state. I'm not a fan of how this has been addressed overall. But at the same time, I'm not in that perspective. I'm not in that chair. And I would stand behind the punishment because you have to punish them like that once you know that that's what the situation is. What I'm saying is I'm not convinced that there's two schools in the nation that have this problem.
Well, and you and I have a mutual friend that's an attorney, and I brought up the term selective prosecution. I mean, where are the Iowa Conference? Just in the state of Iowa, where are the community college players? Where are the Iowa Conference players? It's just the two big ticket items, I guess you could say, in the state of Iowa that have been targeted with this. And I think saying the word target is the right term. I mean, I think they've put the Iowa and Iowa State both have had a target on their back for some reason, and for the life of me, I can't figure out that we are the only state that they've actually maybe that's in progress. Maybe they're actually, because I know they went 2 years back on the records, correct, with the betting thing. So maybe there's an investigation going on somewhere else we don't know about. But that doesn't excuse what happened with our kids. I mean, but I've had many people. I got a call from another friend of mine that went to Iowa State at the same time I was there, and it's doom and gloom and thinking the world's coming to an end and our defense is going to stink and all this kind of stuff. I said, this isn't 20 years ago. I mean, when we got past the first level, the second teamers, where it was a major dive on the depth chart. It's not that way anymore.
We have 4 draft picks on our defense right now.
Yeah.
Probably 5.
Oh, today. You mean?
Today.
All right.
As we sit today, there's 4 draft picks on the defense right now.
TJ
probably
being
5.
one of them.
Yes, TJ's one of them. I think Malik Verdon's going to be a draft pick. I think Tyler Nyettam's going to be a draft pick, and Dominic Orange. I don't know why nobody talks about him.
Right.
He is the TJ's probably a first round, second round pick at the latest. So you got another first round or second rounder on the team. Dominic Orange is going to be, by the end of this season, I think, we right in that mix as well.
Wow.
And so when you're looking at what's there, and this is why I get a chuckle out of this, all the news that's getting out here, and I understand why that's what's out there, and it is big news what just happened. Campbell has moved forward with his team. His coaches have moved forward. The players have moved forward. And then, for me, I'm lucky and blessed that I get to be around this team and learn from them. But what I've learned this summer is on that defense, there's 4 draft picks right now that are going to start this year. And, that's not normal at Iowa State in the past.
Right.
That hasn't been the norm. And now you're seeing what Will's doing for the Jets already in the preseason. We have, there's going to be a defensive end this year. Ikenna is number 88. You'll see him come out this year. A lot of defensive end that I think you'll see him do some really special things at defensive end. You don't even know who he is at this point.
Yeah.
I've been watching him for 2 years. Here we go. Here's the next one. And so they're reloading. The reason you don't hear a lot of noise out of Ames is because they've moved. They have to move on. They have moved on.
Right.
And if you had 4 draft picks on your defense, you move on 2, maybe 5. I mean, Miles Purchase is the other corner. I don't know how you don't look at him. I mean, everything you see that he does on Saturdays, I don't know how. His size is not great. He's not tall. He's not real lengthy, but he's not. I don't care. You watch him cover somebody up. It's pretty impressive what he can do. And I can see him being a nickel guy in the NFL where they move him on the inside a little bit. He's pretty special there too. So again, I can see why they're comfortable in Ames right now in that defense because Will's gone, obviously. We've had a few other key pieces drop out, but there's a lot back there to have a lot of success with.
What this reminds me of is obviously one of the players that was involved. This is Isaiah Lee. When we first saw Isaiah Lee play, it was when Lima got hurt.
Yeah.
Against West Virginia, and then when I saw on my phone, as an Iowa State fan, whenever there was any bad news right before kick, I was like, all right, well, I'm already set emotionally. If anything bad, we're gonna lose, so it's over. And then Isaiah Lee gets out there, and he just is all over the field and just a monster. And I feel like that's a great representation of what's going to happen this year. Is just all of us have anxious and worries about these players leaving and the next one up. And I'm excited to see it because I'm just ready to happen because this gambling thing is just dragged on for so long. And I'm just ready for it to go to bed. And I feel like the players have already gotten to bed, like you said, and that makes me feel way better.
Well, and also with the fact that, we kind of got in the middle of this. Maybe in June is when we really thought something big was going down. If you're saying that they knew in April, this is drug out for 5 months for those guys. So
yeah, I don't remember the exact date, but I know when it happened initially when they came in, grabbed phones. That was noise. I didn't hear that through the coaching or I heard it through an outside source, what had happened one day.
Okay,
they came in. Not a lot of people were aware that day that was going to happen. I don't remember April, May.
Yeah.
I remember it was during baseball season. I was actually at a high school baseball game when I found out what had happened. And so they have moved on since that day.
Yeah.
And so, but if you think of Isaiah Lee, you're just talking about Isaiah Lee. J.R. Singleton he was splitting reps. J.R. Singleton's still here.
Yeah.
By the way, who is in front of them, Dominic Orange, who is better than both of them, is starting and going to be probably – not next year. He can't leave this year, but next year he'll be able to leave and go to the draft. That kid's a draft pick.
What's Dominic's? What would you say? Sorry to interrupt, but what would you say Dominic's strength is? I know he's a big human being and can run, but is he,
I remember him from throwing the Ohio State hat and picking up our hat. Remember that?
Yeah, and he would be playing at Ohio
Yeah.
State right now. Like he would start at Ohio State right now. I'm not. There's not. Again, I don't know Ohio State's defensive line, but I don't know how you keep him off the field. His strength is he eats space up like crazy. Like he can take on a center and a guard. I mean, in the 3-man front, you have to.
Right.
But he's not. You can't move him. He is massive. He's strong. And the good news is, if you're not double teaming him, he's going to make a play in the backfield. He's explosive. He can get upfield. And a lot of times, those big boys like that can't pass rush. They're either a run or they're pass rush. He can do both, and that's the thing that's special about him. In the NFL, they love that. You can get after the quarterback, but when you watch him play, he's really good with his hands. He's really powerful. He's hard to block, and you can't move him. And so, I don't know what they're going to do with him, the other teams. I mean, he's so disruptive. He will take 2. If you don't put 2 on him in the middle of that defense, game over. He's going to ruin your offense.
Because our linebackers are going to be probably pretty young this year, right? I mean, so that's going to help the linebackers as far as
Big time.
Yeah, I mean, if he can take up the guard in the center, then it's obviously going to. It's Sadowski and Will McLaughlin and all of those guys that are going to see serious time this year. Is there another name in the linebacker crew that we haven't been talking about? Or
Sadowski is the one that. It's funny. He's a freshman, a true freshman.
Yeah.
Everyone's already written his name in as a starter, and you should. Like, we're already acting like he's a sophomore or junior. We got to remember he's a true freshman, and the kid's going to start without a doubt. When you see him play, he belongs. I just can't believe a high school kid's that far along to play at this level that quickly. He doesn't. He knows. He's coached so well by Coach Veit. I can't believe a freshman can be this far along this early in the game. I don't know if I've ever seen it that way. He has a lot of the characteristics of like a Mike Rose, but probably further along earlier in his career. Like he's bigger, stronger, more physically intimidating, if you will, if you see him in person. So
which that says a lot, because when I saw Mike Rose against Iowa the first time, like obviously the first game got canceled because of lightning, all that.
But he got one series in that game. I remember that. I mean, yeah.
I'm just like, as a true freshman, I've never seen, like, as a linebacker and as a whole, like, wow. Like, hopefully, as you're saying, if he's a better version of like Mike Rose as freshman, I'll sign me up all day, because Mike Rose is probably up there as one of the best freshmen to ever play at Iowa State as a linebacker right away. Because
I remember when I was standing under the awning when we were getting ready to ride out the storm that night. I saw the first play, and he's going sideline to sideline. I said, "Boy, this kid's 18 years old. Seriously."
And it's crazy. He didn't play. He only sat out like one game or a couple games of his career, and it was not until that at West Virginia game where Brees scored but fumbled, I guess, and we lost that.
he scored.
Yeah.
He scored.
Let's be honest. I was there. He scored. That was a touchdown.
Yeah.
But he's ready now. He's ready right now. Where Mike Rose, you didn't really know about him prior to that game, and he kind of slowly came onto the scene. That they kind of like they've identified him early in the season, but not like this. This guy is the starter. This isn't going to be like, oh man, I wonder what's. No, when the lights are on, this guy's ready to go now.
He's an Ohio kid too, isn't he?
Chicago kid.
Chicago. Okay.
Yeah, and so he's a tough one, and built, and he's ready to rock. I don't know who the third's going to be right now.
Let's get back to
Gary
Will
Vaughn.
Will McLaughlin has put on considerable amount of weight since last year, correct? And then Gary Vaughn is obviously still around, and
Yep, and so I just don't know, what the third spot looks like right now.
Okay.
Honestly, I Gary Vaughn's going to start. Jack Sadowski's going to start. In my opinion, again, these aren't confirmed by any coaches, but from what I've seen, those are your starters. The third spot's open, and so I don't. There's about 3 or 4 guys that are competing for it. Ellis is really competing for it right now. McLaughlin, you see him in there. He's a different kind of talent. He's more of a pass rusher blitzer, at this point. So you're not going to see him a lot like you would normally a normal linebacker. But I think it's wide open right now. I really do. I think that spot. I don't think we'll figure that thing out until we get into Big 12 play against Oklahoma State. I think by the time we get out of Ohio, we'll know who's going to play that spot.
So is there anybody in this freshman class that when you walked in to practice, and this is somebody that passes the eye test? I mean, this is somebody that looks like, a big-time football player without even having to do anything.
Ben Bramer, tight end.
The kid from Nebraska?
Yeah, he's going to draft pick in 3 years. Yep, the kid is going to be special. You know it now. When you watch him, the first snap you watch this kid play, he's ready now.
Wow.
So it's not even a question. The interesting thing, I think the 8 to 10 freshmen will play right away. And I mean, not kind of. I mean, they're beating people out in front of them, and you look at them, you can't believe they're freshmen. Jack Sadowski, I just talked about one. But the one nobody's talking about yet, but will be, is Ben Bramer, the tight end. Number 18, he's out of Pierce, Nebraska. He is so athletic. He is so athletic, big, 6'7" body, rangy, can run.
Jeez.
Really extremely good hands. We're going to be lucky enough to get him for 3 years, I believe, and then I don't know if we see a fourth out of him. He'll be a guy that will move on.
So even with losing Hanukkah, the tight end room is in pretty good shape.
Oh yeah, tight end room's in great shape right now. I think you'll see a lot of 3-man sets, 3 tight end sets. Excuse me.
Okay.
We saw that obviously with Sainer, and Charlie and Allen, but I think you're going to see a lot more of that again this year. Easton obviously is going to be out there. I think Ben's out there. Burkle's going to be a guy you're going to see. Steve O'Klotz is the one that just got a scholarship this week. I love him on
That was
film.
a great video, by the way, too.
Wasn't it? But if you watch film on him, any football player that in the past has watched film and you watch him, you want him on your field. You can't keep that guy off your field. He's more of a he is a very similar, in my opinion, to Sainer, Dylan Sainer, if you remember him from a few years ago. So he has that body type where Ben Bramer, this freshman, has more the Charlie Kohler. The receiving gets open. You can't cover him. We're struggling to cover him, and our defense is pretty solid. So, again, I think he's more that personality. And so the Easton Dean is more of the Chase Allen, where he kind of does a jack of all trades. He'll do anything. He's a great leader. He's the senior this year is kind of showing that room around. But Coach Mauser's done an amazing job with the tight end room. There's 5 tight ends that can play this year that are ready to go.
There's some big boys in there too. I mean,
they are
height-wise. I mean, they're probably all are they all as good at basketball players as what Charlie was? They don't have an NBA. They didn't have an NBA point guard probably in high school.
No, I don't think so. I don't know their basketball skills at this point, but TJ's everybody know about TJ Tampa.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But at the same time, man, I tell you what, there's 3 to 3. There'll be 3 on the field a lot. I really believe that. I think you'll see 3 tight end sets a lot of times.
So when you were at Iowa State, how tall was your tight end?
Well, Mike Banks I would say was our tight end for the most part when we were there. He's 6'4", 6'5", blocking, tough as nails. He's from Ogden.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
Tough kid. And these kids are they're bigger.
Yeah, I mean, but what I'm saying is, where are we heading? I mean, when they put me in a wheelchair and put me in front of whatever we're talking on then, 20 years from now, are we going to have a 7'4" tight end? I mean, where is this going? I mean, I don't. Because it's all the kids have gotten so much bigger over the last 30 years. There's got to be a peak to this at some point, I would think.
We haven't found it yet. If you think about this, I mean, we live in a town where one of the best tight ends in the NFL has ever played, Dallas Clark.
Right.
I'll defend that. I think that he changed the receiving tight end in the NFL. Like I don't. You can't go. You look back at tight ends in the NFL, and he was the one that kind of progressed that position as much as anybody. Anthony Gates was really close at that time. You look at a few others. Jeremy Shockey was coming through at that time. Was kind of
Gonzalez.
Gonzalez was a big time athlete at that time going through. Dallas is. I mean, it's crazy to say, but Dallas from Livermore, Iowa, was in that name, and he mentioned, and that's when that room changed. Now they're a threat, and that's when you see Ben Bramer play. You're going to go, okay, I get it. This guy's. I don't know what you're going to do. You cannot cover him with a linebacker. You will not be able to cover this guy with a linebacker. And so I'm excited to see him play. Does he start snap one? No, probably not. But it doesn't matter. He's going to be the guy out there making plays on week 1.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, good player.
So just from last year to over the summer, what have you already seen that's improving? Already improved for a fact already than last year.
Physicality. They're after it. I've been to 2 scrimmages so far, and Coach McCarney, when I was there, was aggressive. I mean, we tackled, hit hard up. I mean, we went after it. So the last 2 scrimmages, the last 2 weekends, Campbell is running it closer to what McCarney does now that I've ever seen before. They are getting after it, and they're going after it for a long period of time. It's really scripted, a scrimmage is really scripted, like when they're going to take breaks and how things are going. But I was out there for 3 hours, and these guys are getting after it for 3 hours. They are not going 12 snaps and okay, we're ready to go. And I think from what it used to be, even last year, unfortunately, and the year before, I think one of the things we were missing was that physicality where these guys are ready to go, not for a couple series, for the long haul. I think that is the number one thing that stands out in this football team, man. They are different. They just practice harder than I've ever seen since in a long, long time. Like they're getting after it pretty hard right now.
So what do you attribute that to? Our change in strength coach, or just recognizing that in the fourth quarter we weren't quite getting it done, or
So Coach Campbell read, I believe it's from The Athletic. He and I had a chance to talk. He read an article on Andy Reid. I haven't found it yet. I need to read it myself. And he talked about it when we were having a conversation on the side. He said, hey, if you're going to plan to play physically and you're going to plan to play at a high level all the time, you have to practice at a high level all the time. You have to physically practice hard all the time. You can't not tackle or not attack or not be physical all the time and then expect to show up Saturday and be physically ready to go.
Right.
And Andy Reid believes in that. He's old school. And that makes Coach Campbell smile. He's a younger guy in an old school body. You know what I mean? Like he or minds, I should say. He's a younger body, old school mind, and he wants that. And I think that, that article probably changed this season's projection, or what he wants to do to project this season is because of one article from Andy Reid. And
wow.
And so, it's noticeable when you go to practice, the intensity that's there right now. And they're all competing for a spot. There's no, this is my third year now on the sidelines and on Learfield and on the game day radio, and the last 2 years I'd come in here and talk, hey, we knew who was showing up.
Sure.
Right now, I'm going to tell you, there's 8 to 10 freshmen playing. I don't know how much they're going to play. I don't know the starting quarterback. I don't think they know the starting quarterback in Ames right now. I think 3 guys are going to play quarterback by the time you get to Ohio.
Wow.
And so I think when we get to Oklahoma State, we'll probably closer to having a starting quarterback. But right now, I would be surprised if they could say, right now, here's our starting quarterback. It's this person. And so I think that's the excitement of this season is the unknowns, that everyone's distracted by this noise, and inside that building, there's no noise.
So who? And you don't have to disclose this if you don't want to, but who makes the call? I mean, if we got to Oklahoma State and we name a starting quarterback, is it head honcho, or is he going to trust his new young offensive coordinator?
Both are great. I don't know that answer. Shieldhouse I would trust him wholeheartedly. He's a great coach. He's the one I've gotten to know a little more than other coaches on the travel, on the team. And, we've hung out, on the road at different times, and had breakfast and dinners with him. Like I said, got to know him just a little bit, and thank God he's with us. He's going to be a head coach someday. The other thing is there's 3 or 4 other coordinators on that staff. So if you look at the running backs coach, the new running backs coach, he was an offensive coordinator at Duluth, University of Minnesota Duluth at one time. Then he was at North Dakota State as running backs coach. Now he's our running backs coach. So I'm not sure it's just those 2. I think that you look at there's 3 or 4 guys that have called the offense in other situations before that are now on our staff. The wide receivers coach was a past offensive coordinator. And so when you look at the coaching staff today, you have a lot of people in the room making those decisions, not 1 or 2.
Interesting.
So,
Yeah, you mentioned McCarney about like practicing physical and physicality. I was watching Swamp Kings. I don't know if you're the came out yesterday, and McCarney was actually on that staff. I saw him and it made sense because they couldn't do that now what they were doing back then because it was a lot physical. But I'm glad to see Iowa State to be more physical because. Especially against you and I, because whenever we come around the first drive and we get pushed around like a 3 and out, that's when I know, like, oh man, it might be a long year. I'm not. Maybe that's just the.
Well, we've always said that you can almost predict how the season's going to go by the first or second series of you and I, because if we're not getting a push by the offensive line, then when we get in the Big 12, we're really not going to get any push. I mean, and that's not a discredit to you and I.
Yeah.
And so we have what they had doing to us.
Yeah.
And I heard a stat this week. I don't remember what it was, but the amount of players that Coach Clanton at UNI in 4 years got onto all conference was unbelievable. I don't remember the number, but it was ridiculous. Out of so many starters, it was a big number. You will know quarter 1 why Ryan Clanton is at Iowa State. That's what I'll tell you in week 1. And then in week 2, you're going to see the same thing. Week 3, you're going to see the same thing. It's not about the opponent. It's about what he does with his players. When you see our defensive line frustrated in practice, that's a good sign.
Oh, sure it is. Yeah,
that's a great sign.
And you're seeing that, right? I mean,
absolutely. We will be able to.
That's the best news you've said so far, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and if you look at one of the things I've been kind of poring over data for the last couple of years, and now preparing for this year, but looking at the past couple of years rushing. So I'm going to go back. So in 2019, we had actually I'll go back. So 2018 we had 20 rushing touchdowns. We had 22 and 19, 31 and 20, which is a shortened season. 25 and 22, 10 and 20, or excuse me, 10 and 22. So we had 10 last year, 25 the year before that, 31 in 2020, 2019 we had 22, and 2018 we had 20. We have half of what we normally have. And so people want to know, we're 3 catches away from 7 wins. We should have probably won 8.
Yeah.
And that's with 10 less rushing touchdowns. We rush the football again, we're fine. The defense is the same. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to win 12 games. I don't think that. I'd love to, and it sure make my life a lot easier.
Breaking news: you're predicting 12 wins.
Yeah, exactly. But what I'm going to tell you is you return a defense that's pretty solid right now. We watch a team in Eastern Iowa win a lot of games without an offense, and so as long as our young pups on the offensive side of the ball, if they can do what they need to do, we can win football games this year. Our defense is going to keep us around a lot of football games because of what they are.
Well, I mean, I looked up stats too, and in conference last year, our leading rusher in conference was Cartavius Norton.
Mm-hmm.
How many games did he miss in conference?
A lot. I don't remember the exact number, but it was a lot.
Yeah, so he was our leading rusher in conference and didn't play much.
No, that's not a compliment.
No, that's no.
Because he was hurt, and he wasn't even that good last year because of his injury. Like he would tell you he wasn't 100%.
Yeah.
But running back room. Coach Campbell came up to me this weekend and said, "What's the biggest surprise? What do you see?" Without a doubt, the running back room. That's the biggest surprise we got. Norton's absolutely fantastic, but we have 2 freshmen that are real. And I mean
the Sama kid from Southeast Polk,
unbelievable.
Yeah,
Abu Sama.
Sama, is that
Sama. It's Sama. Excuse me, Abu Sama.
Okay.
Lightning fast, breeze fast.
Oh wow.
So when he's loose, gone. You won't catch him. And then Carson Hansen, the kid from Minnesota, he will score touchdowns.
So they're comparing him to Christian McCaffrey, is what I mean. Just because I mean I know that's a unbelievable compliment, but I mean just because he's hard to pigeonhole into a position. I mean he can do. They're saying he can do a lot of different things. I mean, is that what you're saying too?
That's very true. I don't know if I want to put that on his shoulders yet.
Yeah, right.
He's the bigger of the running backs. He can receive the ball out of the backfield. He played in a wing T offense in high school, so he's physical, he's big, he's strong. But I believe, I got to confirm this, but I believe his 100 time was 10.8. So what people aren't going to be expecting is when he steps to the outside, he's gone. He's not going to get caught. He's the same. That's the same speed as Brees.
Yeah.
And so these 2 freshmen are absolutely special. So Ben Bramer, special. Carson Hansen, going to be really, really good. Abu from Southeast Polk, really good.
So there's a reason Southeast Polk won a lot of football games last year, because they have one of their linemen at Alabama, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
I don't know how you don't win with him, and so he will make an impact week 1. You will see him against UNI. There's no way he doesn't play against UNI.
Really? Wow.
No way. No.
Wow.
There's no way he's not on the field unless he's injured if something popped up.
Right.
But as of today, he will be. So will Carson. So will Harris, the kid from the Stanford transfer. So will Cartavius Norton. So will Eli Sanders. It's going to be crazy.
That's a lot of bodies.
They're going to throw bodies at them. You'll see a lot of different formations with your running backs because they're so talented and really fast.
Well, it's crazy that we had the number 3 defense in the conference last year and the dead last offense, and we're still should have won. I mean, can you go down the list? Kansas State and all the games.
Texas.
Yeah, I mean they're all one possession games, or and then
Kansas.
We're 50% from field goals, and so that is hard to win when you have those kind of stats. So let's transition to that. How the special teams looking in your opinion?
I think Tyler Perkins will have a good year. Punting. Obviously he had a good year last year. I think he'll do a nice job. When you look at field goal kicking, I would say it's not decided yet.
Yeah, I heard it's kind of there's some competition going on at least. But there's a transfer from Nebraska, right?
Well, from Iowa Wesleyan, I believe, is where he went to where he went. But they're all competing. That's the best thing I can say right now. So I don't want to name one right now because I've seen them. I think it's wide open right now, and I don't think that there is. You can't name the kicker at this point. So. If I did, I would be wrong because I think you're going to see 2 to 3 kickers to start the season until we name that person.
Yeah, it's such an Iowa State thing.
How about this? Do we have a kicker that can kick it out of the end zone every time?
I think we're going to see a lot of kickers to start the year.
So that's no.
Yeah, I'm not saying no, but I think that we have some guys, that need to prove themselves. Jace Gilbert's one of them. Now he had one bad game that kind of people remember is that Kansas game.
Yeah,
he'll tell you it's a bad game, but he responded very well from it. And he didn't have a great year, but he didn't have a bad year. If you look at his stats, it actually was not a terrible year. And if you take that game away, especially, it's not that bad a year. It was just such a black eye, the one game. One game gave that kid a black eye, unfortunately. So, I don't know who's going to be the person at this point.
That's okay. I mean, I know you've seen him live, so that's why all we're doing is going by what we're hearing. So.
Yeah, the reason why I asked because kind of a kicker kick it out of the end zone because I firmly believe that we would have played in the playoff in 2020 if we just simply had a kicker who could kick it out of the end zone. We would have won the Big 12 championship, and
Yep.
So the kicker thing goes back decades. We're just tired of talking about it. And everybody's tired of seeing it be an issue because but Jay shouldn't care about the history of Iowa State. And he's all accounts, he's a great kid. He's a terrific. Didn't he throw for like 2,000 yards in high school as a quarterback?
Great athlete.
Yeah, so he doesn't give two rips about what happened in 1999. Or whatever.
Seneca losing to Alabama by 20.
Yeah, that was
bad.
That was a bad night in the Orness
That's what I was
house. I
thinking.
know that.
I just thought like last week or a couple weeks ago, I'm like, we would think of Seneca even more if like he beat Bama.
Yeah.
Like he was that close.
We beat him up that night, by the way, physically and everything. It was I was at that game. We honestly shouldn't even come down to that. But here's the good news: J.J. Cole is a quarterback on this football team. Jamie Cole, a teammate of mine, our kicker for a couple of years when I was there, is his dad, and he is arguably the best kicking coach in America. We will have a kicker at Iowa State. And so if there's an interest there.
Like if we make the college football playoff and we like lose on a kick, that guy, Jamie's got to
he's going to come out of the stands.
Yes. He will be
He'll be the
paying
one
attention. We'll put it that way. He will have the right people in front of our coaches.
Yeah, he should be the one just he should just take the fall for all the kickers when JJ is at Iowa State because it's his fault.
I will tell him, hey man, now your son is there. But again, it's open right now. That's what I would tell you. It's wide open. They are still finding the kicker, the guy they want.
Is there any position that when you've been to practice that has just surprised you? That you were just saying, this is somebody that it wasn't even on my radar. That besides the Bramer kid, we've already talked about him, or maybe we've already talked about the freshman enough that there isn't anybody else.
How about not an individual, maybe just like a group of guys, like
we know the safeties are going to be good.
Running backs.
That is
the. There's 3 draft picks in the running back room right now, so that is blew my mind. The 2 freshmen are absolutely special. And so that is the room that shocks me. The tight end room shocks me a little bit. The improvement from the offensive line is literally, if you talk to any player that's been there, any past player, any podcast you listen to, they're going to tell you the same thing. It's different. And you know it when you see it. You're going to know it week 1. That's different. Man, I think that's probably it. I'll answer it the same way I answered to Campbell last week. Your running back room is the biggest surprise to me. And so 3.
That's a good surprise.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's 5. There's 4. 5 are going to play. There's 3 legit starters, and the other 2 would bring a lot of value. I think Harris is probably a starter day 1, but the kid will get you 3 yards every time. Kid's a muscle. He is just a meat. We need 2 yards. Okay, here we go. And I think he'll be ready to rock. So that is the position group. That is the one that will blow your socks off week 1.
So I think when we lost Jarrell, we lost a really good pass protector. It seemed like when he came in, it was almost like an automatic we were throwing when Brees was playing because Jarrell was a better blocker. Do you have is it one of those guys that stands out? Eli is not as big as some of those other guys, right? So is Cartavius going to be the Jarrell of the, helping out our new quarterback, whoever that is?
Yeah, I think they all can do it. Abu's probably not quite ready for that. He's still young. As a freshman, he's a little undersized at this point, a little bit. I say that, and then I see what Vaughn's done. Deuce Vaughn has done now in the NFL.
Yeah,
with the
right.
Cowboys, but it was bigger than that. But he's just maybe not your intimidating back to block. But Eli's probably that guy. Harris is probably that guy. Cartavius can take that role on. Carson Hansen can take that role on. It's harder for a freshman because you're learning blocking schemes.
Right. Yeah.
High school, you're just picking up whoever's loose. In college, you're picking up, okay, center. You'll see a center every play. You'll see the center come to the line of scrimmage. They're calling the protection. And when they call a protection, they're basically setting the line of scrimmage and where they're going to want to block to. The running back has to know that because they have nowhere to go block. Freshman, and you come out of high school, if you haven't been in a some of that strategy or some of that technique, it takes a little bit to pick up on that. So the freshmen will be a little slower on that, but we got guys that can be back there with them. So and tight ends too.
This is a little off the subject, but did you see Quarterback on Netflix this summer?
I did. It's fantastic.
So when they were doing the calls, when you were watching all of those quarterbacks memorizing plays and the complexity of the calls they were making, compare that to an Iowa State offensive call. Is it similar? Is the college ones more simplified? Like when you were listening to Patrick Mahomes do a call, I know every piece of what he said is talking to one particular position, but he's calling protections. He's calling all of these other things. Is that similar to the way our new quarterback's going to be making calls as well?
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah.
It's almost the same. Again, there's always differences. It's like speaking a foreign language.
Sure.
So every team has a language that they speak. They're similar, but they're different. And so ZX cross, whatever. That may be a pattern they're gonna call, and another school may call it whatever. They'll have another name or jargon for it, and it's the same play, just called it different. And so Iowa State is going to run the same thing in the NFL. Brock could adjust to 49ers because it's the same play call he was seeing at Ames that he's going to see in the 49ers. And so it sounds complicated. Even to me, it sounded complicated. But once you get into it, you're speaking a language that you learn, and you're listening to the whole thing, but you're paying attention to a snippet of that.
Right.
The quarterback needs to know all of it. And so, again, there's a lot going on in the playbook. That's why they have those 4-inch wristbands on their hands, with 3 levels of pages of cheat notes, that you have on your arm.
I thought the funniest part, I'm getting off the subject a little bit, but the funniest part of the quarterback thing is when Cousins was in a game and forgot the call and said whatever at one point when he was making the call, and they still scored.
Oh yeah,
because he couldn't remember what he was supposed to say.
Yeah,
but they were so like you were saying, they speak the same language. They knew what was supposed to be done, but he just couldn't remember what he was supposed to say. So I thought that was one of the funniest parts of that show. So if Campbell's been reading stuff about Andy Reid, is he letting them do a little of the Patrick Mahomes designing their own play type thing?
No, absolutely not. I think what you see is you're going to see what you get on Saturday against UNI. When you see that game, I think it'll be a very it's an open playbook, but it's one that's very guided towards these quarterbacks. And I think you'll see when you see it. I don't think it's going to be over the top. It's not going to be a lot of different things that you've seen from the previous years. Coach Shieldhouse has come out of that same offense. He wants to see a quarterback that's mobile a little bit. They can throw on the run, put a little pressure on the defense. J.J. Cole can run. Everyone's like, oh, he's big, he can't run. J.J. Cole can run. You'll see J.J. Cole keep the ball on RPO. And it's going to shock some defenses because oh my gosh, this guy's 6'8" and he's running with the football. Yeah, and he can run really fast. So it just doesn't look fast when you're that big. And so, I think that they'll protect the quarterbacks. They're young, but at the same time, they'll give them enough freedom to make plays when they need to. I think that's probably the best way to put it. I like what I've seen so far.
The snow globe play or whatever the Chiefs ran. Do you remember seeing that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we're not going to see the snow globe.
No. They will be very directed on what they're going to do. They'll have a chance to audible when they see something, but you won't see a lot of that. It's going to be very led by the booth and by the offense coordinator.
That was what I was expecting.
Yeah, it was weird seeing Purdy light up the NFL last year and knowing he could have taken a COVID year and been at Iowa State last year and what that would have looked like. And it's crazy to think that Brees could be at Iowa State this year if he had stayed. That's how much eligibility he had left.
And he came in and had one series this past week and went 4 for 5, and they sat him down. So, yeah.
And he's great. And it's funny because all the fans, we want him to throw deeper. We want him to throw further. We want him to look, this is what he can do. You know, this is the car we got. Let's use the skills of this car. And I think that Shanahan and San Francisco's figured that here's how you drive this car. You know, and I think that when he was at his best, it was to Charlie Kohler. If you look weird, you know, look what he's doing in the NFL. And so nothing's different. They're using him similarly that we would have used him. Maybe they have probably a little more tools. You know, I wish we would have used Brees more out of the backfield on the pass plays than we did probably in the past. They use Christian McCaffrey all the time. But now you got probably one of the best running backs, one of the best tight ends, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and then you have an accurate quarterback. Yeah, good luck. You know what I mean? Which one where are you gonna try to stop?
Yeah, Brock has played with some good running backs.
Absolutely.
Montgomery, I'd argue these up. I don't know. Brees and McCaffrey, obviously. McCaffrey's like on a different planet because he is insane. But Brees could obviously. I'm not gonna talk bad about Brees because he might be the best running back in the NFL next year.
Yeah, right now he could be.
Yeah.
That's you know, you look at Hard Knocks this week, you had 21 miles per hour cruising.
It's insane.
These guys are all wearing these catapult technology on them. They know how fast they're running.
Yeah.
It's crazy how fast, like, you see him as a freshman, skinny freshman, and now he's just bulked up, running 21 miles per hour.
Stay close enough to that.
1 more per hour on the Jets. Like, probably going to be the Dallas Cowboys of this year because everyone's going to talk with the Jets because they have so much talent.
So what I would tell you is appreciate Abu. Watch Abu run, and you'll know exactly
compare
what I'm
him
talking
to Kane.
I'd compare him to Brees.
Okay.
He runs similar to Brees. He's a heel striker. You know, if you remember how Brees runs, his heel strikes first. It's a different kind of it's a running. It doesn't look like he's moving, and no one can touch him. And that is exactly how he runs. He heel strikes. And so I'll never forget it. The first practice I went to, and he went by last play of scrimmage or last play of the practice. He went for 40 yards and a touchdown against our number one defense. And he wasn't. No one's closing the gap on him. Nobody was closing the gap on him.
And, like, when you say number one defense, like, that's one of the best defenses in the Big 12.
Yes.
So that's not, like, as a freshman, that's insane.
Against also some very talented D-backs.
Oh, yeah.
Too. I mean, that
Tampa can run and Purchase can run too, so that's impressive.
Yeah.
and Jeremiah Cooper, we know, can run. I mean, he was a good track athlete.
He
in
can
El Paso
roll
too.
Yep. He can run too.
So, like, yeah, I remember. I'm like remembering our first podcast. Like, we were freaking out about Texas and Oklahoma leaving, and now it's just like crazy to see like realignment happened this summer. But Iowa State fans, obviously, that was not on top of their mind. But what is your look for the future of the Big 12? Do you see as positive that Brett Mark's kind of turned things around?
Yes, thank God for Brett. You know, without Brett, we are the Pac-12. He's got a vision for you guys. You'll love it. Basketball vision.
Oh,
you know?
basketball's gonna be insane.
It
The
is.
conference is gonna be crazy.
And you think all these TVs, you know, all these stations want content. I mean, holy cow! You're sitting around at home. Everyone's watching 12-year-olds play baseball right now because there's nothing else to watch.
Right.
You know what I mean? And people are paying for that and want to watch content. And look, I'm happy for the Little League World Series. It's not bad at all. But if you put a Iowa State, Kansas game on a Tuesday, I'm watching it. And so is a lot of other people. If you put Cincinnati versus Kansas State, you're going to probably watch it. You put on a, Houston game, against Oklahoma State, they're going to watch it. Like he's putting a conference together right now that's pretty special. And the good news is the football's still good. It's good football. There's no bye week. When you look at the new conference, there is no bye week on that football schedule. So do we have Alabama? No, we don't have the Alabama in there. We don't have the Clemson in there at this point. But I would argue those conferences have teams in them, but we don't have either. And that's on the bottom side.
Right.
And so
we don't have Vanderbilt.
We do not have Vanderbilt.
Rutgers.
Northwestern's not amazing right now.
Yeah.
They're a little bit of a problem. And so, Rutgers, they're not very good football right now. And so the ACC's full of it. When you look from top to bottom, their bottom is not, Syracuse is not, a juggernaut. So when you look at top to bottom, I think the Big 12, top to bottom, is one of the best conferences in America.
So out of the new additions that we've got, what's the one you're most curious about? I mean, like going to the atmosphere or seeing what the game day thing is like because you've maybe never been there before, or you just thought it goes, wow, that'd be kind of cool when you go there.
BYU for me.
That's what I thought you might say.
Yeah. So when I was training to go to the NFL, we were in Atlanta, and my roommate was Kalani Sitake. Kalani Sitake is the head football coach for BYU now.
Oh, okay.
And so he was a roommate of mine for 4 months of our lives. I know it's a very short period of time, from January to the draft. And, got to know him very well. Amazing person. I'm excited to see him in his program. I know what he is as a person. You live with someone for 4 months, you get to know him.
Right.
So I'm excited to see that environment. BYU is a big time pickup for the Big 12. That for me, that's the one I want to go see. I think that's the one that's going to be special.
Yeah, UCF is not.
It's warm.
It's
go there in
gonna be
November.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, we have to go there for basketball this year, right?
Yeah.
I think that's my whole thing. We said this last time. The biggest tragedy of the realignment thing is that we don't go to Lawrence for basketball this year, and Tyrese Hunter does not have to come back to Ames this year.
Right.
I mean, that seems like it was by design to me, but
I guess pick and choose. The at Kansas game, it's been on ESPN Plus the last 4 years, which has been one of the best games of the college basketball all year. And I don't know, it's
too bad.
Things are changing. People like the Big Ten's again, like Peacock and
Try to find that on your TV.
yeah.
It's just like what DirecTV used to be is like you bought DirecTV just so you could have all these channels. Now we're just going to be flipping off of each app.
You're gonna have like 5 different subscriptions that you're gonna forget to cancel or whatever. So.
Because ESPN Plus, like other than the basketball season, I really don't use it at all because I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. No, I haven't turned it on since basketball got over.
I don't either.
So tell us a little bit about, I know you're, knee deep in the We Will. Give us an update about how that's going. Is there anything you can tell anybody that's listening to this that we could do to help or, what? And we had a great event here. I haven't talked to you since the softball game. I mean, that was phenomenal. I mean, the only thing I didn't like about it is I thought the Wampa kid is probably a pretty good athlete for the Hawkeyes.
He's pretty solid.
and
Cooper DeJean is not terrible.
Cooper is too. But and when Wampa made the catch with no glove, robbing the guy, and then turns around and throws a guy out, he's anyway
pretty special.
But it was an unbelievable night. I mean, how much did we raise that night?
I haven't got a final number yet, so I don't know what that is. I know they came out with a huge number early on. I don't know where they got that number. It wasn't from us. They came out with a $200,000 number. We didn't raise $200,000.
Okay.
But we are closing in on that endowment, which is nice, and that's when we started the collective, the We Will. It was, I remember talking to you guys about this. We want our kids to go do good things, use their name to go do good. We paid athletes to be here, that week, but those athletes brought in money into a charity. So we now have money going to the endowment for Make-A-Wish here in Humboldt County. And so it's working like we wanted it to. What I would tell a fan, anyone listening, like if it's $5 a month you can afford, do $5 a month. If it's $100 a month, do $100 a month. We need everybody. And the only way that we sustain our athletes and keep our athletes is through this collective. It's just the future. It's not, we can come on podcasts all day and debate this stuff. It's not debatable anymore.
Right.
It's not a debate. And so when you look at the class coming in that TJ's bringing in right now for basketball, you know how special this thing is. And so I know we're in football season, but what's about to happen in basketball is going to blow your mind. What's really going to be scary is in 8 months is when we have to retain those players. We didn't pay them to come here. We talked about that. And so we are going to have to pay them to retain them here because as soon as this year happens, people are going to drop money on them. And I don't think we need to pay them like what you're hearing some of the big numbers out there for other schools. I don't see us ever being to that point, but we got to pay them enough to keep them where they're not wanting to leave and not wanting to jump and look over the other side of the fence. So we need numbers, meaning we need every fan. $5 a month matters. That's $60. Like that's $60 a bunch of times over makes a difference.
Oh, sure. Right.
And so, I contribute. Obviously, I started the thing, and we have a nice board, a great board of directors. Brent Bloom, who now actually runs it, which I'm way in the back seat of this thing right now.
Got a chance to meet him at the softball game. I'd never met him before.
Great guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
He's a great human being. And today we dropped Ames Lager is going to drop today. It
was on my list. I told you I was stopped at West O, and they would not give me a free sample.
When it comes to Brent running that, I don't think there's anyone suited more for that role than him.
No, I
couldn't
agree
agree more. Yeah, he's been fantastic to work with. He's a better person than anything else. Like he is good at what he does, but as a person, you got to trust the person running that thing. There's money changing hands there, and we have a treasurer, we have an accountant, we have a person that's taking care of all of our taxes. We have all the pieces in place to protect ourselves. You still have to trust that person with everything of that organization. You can't put a better person than Brent Bloom in charge of that. You can't trust a person more than someone like him. And so he's the right guy for us and what we're trying to do.
So where do you, you said that this is the future. Where do you think if you said this is the next step for We Will, what would that be? Or is there? Is just we just need to keep the snowball going and trying to make this as with as much capital as we can find, or is there something else that you see in the horizon that we're going to be doing with this?
That's the next step is truly engaging our athletes with companies, meaning if you're an organization and you're an ag company and you could use use somebody to promote your business, we want to engage them in your business. Like, they have social presence that you'll never get, and they have vision. Like, they're on social media that at a level that any business can't buy into.
Right.
And so our next step is engaging them in businesses. Where a business will hire one of these athletes to promote their company and their business, and that is, I think that is our next step. We have to find a way for our companies to engage the athletes in their business and their marketing plans to help them grow their business. They will make you money. They will bring, look at that softball game. We don't raise that kind of money if a bunch of old guys from the school are coming out to play.
No, if it's you and Derek and Dallas playing.
Yeah, we raised $35 and we have pulled hamstrings. And so it's, our next step is getting companies to engage in this now. And they just don't know how to do it. And we got to help the companies realize what the value of these athletes are to put them inside their organization.
So you're talking about trying to get them to be like an influencer in social media, or, is it going to be old media with TV commercials, or is it all of the above?
All the above.
Yeah.
Social events, having them at social events, having them at customer appreciation events, having them on, like you said, social media. You name it, there's a way to use this marketing wise. Putting on softball games, you brought these athletes in, we raised a ton of money that way. There's ways they could do it with their charities. A lot of companies work with charities. You can use these athletes and hire them to come work with charities. And so there's a million different things that we could do with them. Our next step is not just the donor level, it's actually engaging them in the organization, those companies that are out there.
So what do you think, are you seeing hesitation by the corporations on engaging in this, or they just don't know how to do it?
Don't know how to do it. It's so new to everybody. And then, is it really worth it? Do they want to do it? Do they want to spend it? Is there a return on the investment? What I would say, there is a return on the investment. We just have to figure it out. You can't just hire someone and say, okay, let's see what happens and make a couple tweets. It's not going to work that way. You got to have a strategy behind it. Invest in the athlete and give the athlete a strategy to help you. And if you do it, they can help you grow your business. So we need that, because then it's not just donor base, and then it's companies and corporations can help us keep our athletes. Because if that's dollars that saves us so we can go to another athlete with, that's good for us too. So it saves us funds and allows us to invest in other athletes along the way. So we need everybody. And I think the problem is everyone's like, oh, if I do $20 a month, it's not going to make a difference. That's wrong. It makes a huge difference. And, we talk to Brent Bloom every single board meeting. It's like, okay, where's our donor base at? Where's our donor base at? Where's our donor base at? And so we want to know how many are donating on a monthly basis, not how much. We know that. Obviously, we need to know that. But the big number is, how many engagements are we getting? How many people are engaged in an organization? How do we grow it? When you look at this beer, we'll make money off of this Ames lager. But this Ames lager and being in someone's hands also going to know who We Will Collective is after this is over. So it's both. It's a marketing engagement and a money raiser for us.
We have a coffee now, a vodka.
Yeah.
What are the other?
That's it.
Is that it so far?
That's it so far. And so now I will tell you this, and all the fans need to hear this. The We Will is the coffee. It's the Ames lager. And it's the vodka. The other stuff is other organizations, working with Iowa State to sell, and it doesn't impact the Iowa State athlete.
So, you sent me a picture of a beer that had an Iowa State logo on it?
Yeah, Clone Fest or something.
Yeah, that does not help a student athlete at Iowa State.
That's just a marketing game.
That's just a marketing game. Ames lager is ones that help. Ours goes right to the athlete. And so that's the difference. Everyone's trying to put their name and brand and everything right now. And it's funny, once it caught some wind, and then every brewer wants their name and to do something. And we went with West O. We went with one company. But I think what our fans need to know, one beer supports student athletes. And that is the Ames lager. That is the one that supports the student athlete.
Yeah, well, man, like I said, I stopped there and tried to, but what kind of this guy that I talked to had a pretty good job. It was like, I don't know what time, it was like 2 PM, and his job, I think, was to help run the brewery. So, you got to sample every once in a while. So I always wondered, do these guys have to get a DD to go home? I had friends that had parents that worked in Anheuser-Busch in St. Louis. and they'd drink at lunch. They'd have open taps. They'd sit there and drink while they're on their lunch break. And I just said, how do you get home from these jobs? But
Yeah, that's tough. We don't need to normalize that in our society. I know
no,
that.
no, we don't need any more reasons to get screwed up.
Exactly. We got plenty.
Right.
So it's like, is when Sidetown comes, is like a lot of those businesses is either connected to We Will, you think?
I don't think those companies will be directly. No, I don't see that at this point. I mean, that Sidetown's vital for the future of Iowa State athletics because it's an income revenue for the athletic department.
And it's it's going to be, I didn't realize this. It's going to be a huge revenue generator.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And he knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he'll do a lot of great things with that. But that goes to Iowa State athletics, which is important as well. But we got to have the money to put the players on the floor and put the players on the field and we have to have the funds to keep these kids. We will become a feeder program if we aren't careful.
Sure, yeah.
And so that's what this is hopefully going to help us do is protect us.
Like if where it happened where we were really good 2020 is when like the rules changed. Like if that was like a couple years before where Brees and Brock were on like the open market, like how much money do you think they could have gotten just like Brees? Like
A lot
of money.
But TJ Tampa can get a lot.
Yeah,
TJ
that's
Tampa
true.
turned a lot of money down. I'm not going to share how much, but it's way more than we could ever pay him. We obviously pay him to do some stuff. He was up here for the softball game. He's done some other nice charity work. The cool thing for him, he does it because he loves to do it. Like he likes to be around people. But there's a school that offered him an extreme amount of money that may have won a national championship relatively recently. So
He picked us over
over
that
them.
school. Yeah.
Okay. So
we connect all three of those dots pretty fast.
and so when you look at that, our athletes, if we can keep them happy, they'll stay here. We don't need to match the dollar for dollar because he's going to get drafted first, second round. Tyrese Halliburton, you've seen what he's getting paid right now.
Yeah.
George Yang, what he's getting paid right now. They want to be part of this culture. We just can't give them a reason to leave.
Yeah.
And I think if we can have enough to keep them around, that's the key. And that's what our fan base has to understand. Everybody has to contribute what they can. $5 to $1,000 a month. I don't know. I mean, the people have a lot of money out there.
So,
whatever it is that you're comfortable with, that's the right number.
So the guys that walked when the NIL first came on for money reasons, how many of them actually made an impact on their team or had good seasons? I can't think of anybody. Can you? I mean,
no. Asheem Young played a little bit.
Is the only one that I can think of. He started, I believe, for Ole Miss, but Craig McDonald didn't do anything in Auburn that I remember.
I know he's at Minnesota now, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Okay.
There may have been a few of them that wanted to come back to Ames. We'll put it that way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They're not back in Ames.
Yeah, no.
You can't.
Right.
That's not. You don't start that wheel.
No.
And so, but it hasn't worked out for everybody. But we can't lose. You're going to see some special players this fall, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Right now, everyone's still talking about gambling. I've moved on. I've been to practices.
Sure.
I have physically seen this year's team. It's going to have some challenges. It's going to have some fun things to it, without a doubt. I think that I mean, someone says, "What's the win? Plus or minus win loss?" I don't know. I don't even know where to place it because it's that unknown for how much young talent there is. If this young talent can outperform themselves as being a freshman, it's pretty scary. But you know what's so scary is trying to win football games with freshmen.
And in the Big 12.
In the Big 12.
Right.
And so they're both scary. The upside's scary good, and the downside's scary because you're trying to do something with freshmen. That's hard to do. You got to realize what these kids are. They're 18-year-olds trying to win Big 12 football games.
And that's what I said when this whole gambling thing hit. I said, this is why some guys want to move on to the professional level because you're still dealing with kids that are going to do things that just are mistakes, and that's exactly what it was.
It was, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's just nice to see as a college fan, there's like the difference between college and NFL is like you get to see a player rise from a freshman to like what Brees was as skinny to what he was. My fear as an Iowa State fan, just as a college football fan as a whole, is like after like you see those guys rise on a different team, like if he was on Tennessee or something, you watch him. It's like every time it would just sting, and it's like not the kid's fault. It just and yeah, I don't know. It's just nice that Iowa State's building a culture, and now we have something to actually like. Especially like there's instance where like there's like cases where like family can't come to a game or they can't afford it, where we can actually spend like give them the money. I feel
Which is real, by the way.
Yeah.
That's not fake. That is a real deal.
Yeah.
So that people think we're just using it as a rally cry. That's real. In Iowa, we don't see how some people are growing up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're pretty blessed up here. Now, there's also some in Iowa that need help. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm just saying there's some areas where people come in from. Will McDonald, you can't imagine the life that he grew up in, sleeping in cars, working at McDonald's so he could buy the football cleats so he could play football. I mean, it's crazy. His story's nuts. And
Two scholarships, 2 offers out of high school, and now he's just gonna.
And and the story every time I think of Will McDonald is a story that I've heard from. And he was doing I think one of the first We Will events that he stuck around, was picking up chairs somewhere in Southwest Iowa, and how impressed everybody was by him. I mean, yeah. So he's a great story.
very humble.
Yeah.
Very humble human. Great man. He really is a good person.
Yeah, I'm happy for him. Happy for all of them. I mean, Tyrese and George and Brees and everybody. I mean, we got a lot of professional Cyclones that we haven't had that many in a long time.
Yeah.
So now you're going to go to an Iowa State game this fall, and you're going to see jersey. You're going to see a Brees jersey, Brock Purdy, Wangu jersey. You're going to see Lazard jersey, Butler jersey.
He just got cut, and I
think he's going to get picked up somewhere. You can't play that. He's going to stick somewhere.
So I got 2 buddies of mine. Shout out to Gus and Wendell, but they're 2 buddies of mine, really good friends of mine, been best friends forever. They're both big Steelers fans. Their birthday was last week. I got on NFL.com. Ordered him a Akeem Butler shirt with his jersey and number on the back of it. The day that it ships is the day he gets cut.
I think
Same thing happened with Lanning. I got a Lanning Cowboys shirt sitting in my drawer, so I said, I'm guaranteeing that an Iowa State player is going to get cut if I order their jersey on NFL.com. Or it's not jersey shirt, but anyway.
Yeah. So that's a cool thing. You're starting to see these guys, Montgomery, I didn't say Montgomery. I mean, you're going to go to Iowa State football games and see jerseys with Iowa State players on the back of them from everywhere, from the Lions.
Which, you grew up going, I don't know if you grew up on Iowa State games, but I did. I seen Seneca jerseys, but he was a backup quarterback. But now it's just completely different, and it's going to be, I think, Iowa State fans doesn't know what's coming. This fall's going to be more fun than people think.
It is.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I mean, the more that I've read about the kids and now what you've said, I mean, really excited.
Yeah,
so.
Dominic Orange, I'm excited to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, he should be dominant orange.
Yeah, the dominant. I saw him interviewed. They call him Will or somebody nicknamed him the Dominator.
Oh, did they?
That's
I haven't seen that one yet. He is.
Yeah.
Good luck moving him. When you meet him, you're going to push him anywhere.
Well, Ryan, we really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah,
Hyping
times.
us up because I really needed all the juice because you gave it to us because this offseason's kind of rough for us, but we're ready for football, and you gave us a lot of insight.
Well, a lot of podcasts are pure outright guesses, and when you've seen it face to face, it sure gives us a lot of more things to think about and other people to think about that you've actually seen it one-on-one, and we're not just guessing on what everybody else is saying.
No, these are not guesses. I've been watching it, so it's
appreciate it.
Yeah, there's going to be some young talent playing. You're going to see the highs and lows of it, but it's going to be exciting and fun. I promise you. And they've moved on in names, so fan base move on. It's I know
over.
The news is news. It's old news. That stuff happened months ago. So if you're thinking that's what they're talking about in the locker room, it's not. They literally have moved. You don't sense it, feel it, hear it, talk about it when you're on campus. You don't see it at all.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
well, go out there and support. We will, guys. If you haven't signed up yet, and like Ryan said, $5, $10, whatever you can afford, is going to help us keep some of these guys that Ryan's talking about when we get our 8th or 9th win this year. So
that'd be great.
Right. Yep. Thanks, Ryan. Really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Go Cyclones.
Go
Thank you.
Cyclones.